Hey guys, what's up everyone? A very warm welcome to tonight's live Q&A. I decided to go live a bit early to make sure everything is working properly. We have a very special guest tonight. Deniz Koyu will be joining us. And now it's sharp 8 p.m. So we will wait for Deniz to join our Instagram live. If you are watching this Q&A later on IGTV, don't be surprised. This one is going to be in English, but in the future we will of course also still hosting live Q&As in German. So I'm seeing there are a few people in the chat already joining us here. If you have any kind of questions for Deniz Koyu, just drop them below in the chat. We will try to answer them all, although we received a couple of questions via the question box we posted earlier in our Instagram story already. So probably these questions will lapping over with yours. But as I said, feel free to post any kind of questions here below in the chat. And I see Deniz Koyu is online. Now he have to send a request to be part of this Instagram live. Don't be shy, Deniz. I hope you guys can hear me properly. Just say hello in the chat. Here is Deniz requests. Let me check. So we're waiting for the connection. Deniz!
Yo, Asti.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Very good. Good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you too, yeah.
It's been a while.
Indeed, yes, indeed. Recently, just a week ago, but we haven't seen each other in a while.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, unfortunately, due to the coronavirus, we won't see each other at any festival or ADE or something like that. But yeah. Hopefully next year again.
Hopefully, yes.
Great.
Right.
So I was just about to do a little introduction. Although I think you are one of those DJs or artists who doesn't actually need a big introduction. You're a German producer, you played gigs all over the world, you released on labels like Axwell's, Xtone, Martin Garrix, STMPD, that's right, yeah. Tiesto's Musical Freedom, Fedez Flamingos, Sebastian Ingrosso's Refune, and the list goes on and on. And yeah, we are super happy that you are joining us today, talking a bit about your career and music production, and so on.
For sure, yeah. Thanks for having me. Let's do this, huh?
Yes. So where are you right now?
Right now, just in my studio. Like this is,
okay.
You know what I'm.
Your spaceship.
This year, right? Like.
Yeah. Actually, fun fact to start with. Some of my colleagues were making jokes about me doing the interview with you because they told me you are such a big car fan, and I'm the guy who doesn't even have a driver's license.
You don't, really?
No.
You're kidding me. Why not?
Yeah, I'm not a car fan, and I always preferred to take the plane or the train. And so although I have one car, like if I have to choose a favorite car of all time, it would be an Aston Martin DB5.
That's nice.
Which is wonderful, I think. But generally, I'm not that much into cars, to be honest.
Yeah, I see, I see. But I gotta say, if I was living in Cologne, then I would probably also prefer sometimes to just take the bike. And,
Okay, yeah.
I think it would also maybe be a bit too stressful with the car all the time in the city. So, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. We have a big lack of parking spaces and everything. So yeah, as long as you live in a big city with good infrastructure and airports and train stations and etc., I think there's no need for a car. Yeah.
Yeah, that's yeah, exactly. Yeah, but
yeah.
here it's a bit different for me. I'm like 2 minutes from the highway, and then
Okay.
Düsseldorf to the airport. So it's, for that infrastructure here, it's good to have a car, and it's much more convenient. And then, yeah, have a quick ride on the highway and get to the airport quickly. And
yeah, of course, of course. So before we are talking about your career and music, I have to ask the obvious question: how the coronavirus is affecting your life as an artist at the moment or over the past couple of months. Obviously, you are not touring at the moment.
Yeah, not touring at all. So since February, everything stopped, right? And in my case, it was really this way that in February, I still had a whole big tour in China actually planned. Okay. So it was, we had shows booked for every weekend, Friday, Saturday, full February, I think also some weekdays. It was already, we had it planned since like November, December last year. And then in January, we got the first news, and I really still remember everything. It was funny because in the beginning we were saying, all right, this will probably last for 2 or 3 weeks. So we're just going to take those February dates and just move them into April. So this was the first approach. So we started talking to the promoters and we said, okay, no problem. We'll just move everything to April. And then 2 or 3 weeks later, everything looked a bit worse. So yeah, then ever since then, everything, of course, got canceled, moved. I was also, one that was really sad for me was Ultra Miami.
Oh, yeah.
I booked for that one, and I didn't play Ultra Miami in quite a long time. So I was really looking forward to go back to that one. Yeah, and right now it's the question is Ultra 2021 happening or not?
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Too bad. Yeah, that hurts. I mean, Ultra is one of the biggest and most important festivals in the EDM scene, and yeah, that's really shitty cancellation, of course. Yep. But I guess you're spending more time in the studio then at the moment.
Yeah, so really working on a lot of music and yeah, just studio time. And I've also been putting out quite a lot more music this year than I usually do. So people know me, they know that I'm not the type of artist who puts out a song every 3 weeks. I'm not like that. So I usually take my time. But this year was, I did have a lot more releases than compared to last year, the years before. So that's a positive thing too that comes from it. And just also, experimenting more in the studio, trying to find new sounds and ideas. And you can always try to flip the coin and write and try to get something positive from it. And
yeah, of course. Yeah, actually, I've seen many artists working their asses off in the studio at the moment, and really trying to make something good of the time they have now available. But did you miss the inspiration that comes with the gigs? Is it affecting your music production?
Yeah. Well, the one thing that really is missing is the fact that you can't test the tracks that you're trying studio, especially when it's club tracks. So that's really difficult. And I noticed this for sure. Yeah, it's like you're getting a bit I would say you're just not sure anymore if the idea you have is the right thing, because testing it out at the clubs and in front of crowds, it's such a big factor. So that's definitely missing. My solution for this, or approach for this year, was so far that I've been focusing a bit more on not the club bangers, but more the stuff that you can listen to on Spotify, or in the car, or whatever, but not necessarily, it's not like those club bangers. So more vocal tracks, a little bit more poppy, dance pop oriented stuff. So yeah, that's what I've been focusing on this year. But I do also work on club tracks, of course, and yeah, I mean, as long as you can feel it in your stomach and the studio too, it usually is.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you have a good studio, as you have, I mean, you know your studio, you know how it should or would sound on a proper club system. But yeah, I know this feeling, and I myself, I really miss testing out the club tracks in front of a crowd, obviously.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So so now let's talk music. Enough of this Corona shit.
Yeah.
Probably some guys need a short explanation. What is the connection between WEPLAY and Deniz Koyu as an artist? You should know that WEPLAY worked Tongue, Ruby, To the Sun, Solar, and a couple of other tracks for Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. Also, I remember you remixed one of the really early club hits of the label, Feel Alive, by Jean Elan on Cosmo Klein. That was a great remix back then. And
by the way, so he's actually doing my management now.
Yeah, I heard that, yeah.
Right, the circle.
Full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think Tongue was really kind of your breakthrough track, which puts you on the map. Is that right?
For sure, yeah, definitely, for sure, yeah. Because before that song, I was putting out music for like 5 years almost, 4 or 5 years. And I mean, it's really hard in the beginning if you don't have that one song that really everybody recognizes and a lot of DJs play, that you just get a lot of attention for. If you don't have that one song, then in the beginning it's just really, really hard to get over that first initial hill, right? And I've been struggling with that too in the beginning of my career for like the first 4 or 5 years. But then once I had that song, Tongue, from that moment on, it was then going pretty well.
Yeah. That's actually really connecting to a question that we received before. I will try to sum it up. You've released music on so many labels, and you've remixed guys like David Guetta, collaborated with Alesso, and so many more. And the question we got a lot is actually, what is the best way to achieve this? Like, what is your secret, and how to get in contact with the right guys?
I think these are two questions, right? So I think the first one comes first. So, you know, for me, what was always more important was when I started making tracks and club tracks in the beginning, especially, I wasn't really like trying to look for a certain goal. Like, I mean, in terms of like, okay, let's say you're listening to a couple of artists, they're making a certain sound, and then I was never sitting in the studio with the mindset, okay, I have to make music that is like this guy and like this guy, and I have to try to fit into there. And, you know, like with that, like targeting that goal like this, because I think for me, it was always trying to be more playful in the studio and just experimenting a bit more and just like going by feeling, you know, and not so much like listening to others and then going off by that. And then, you know, like, because I think a lot of people try to do that, and then this way they're trying to skip certain steps. And if you don't do this, if you're trying to do something on your own that just feels right, then and this was, well, first of all, this is one thing. The other thing that I was always focusing on was also sound and engineering and mixing, trying to make my songs sound really good. And these are two things that I think other bigger artists really appreciate. Yeah, so coming to that second question, because I think, for example, a lot of times I hear this thing, people coming to me and saying, let's say, first, let me say this. Sometimes, you know, I can tune a kick drum for an entire day. Yeah, some little details that can really be super detail oriented and yeah, go hard on those details. And then sometimes people would tell me, nobody hears this. Nobody hears these differences. You know, don't spend your time on that so much. On the one hand, that's true, but on the other hand, coming to your question, these bigger artists, I think they can hear that. And then this is one thing that they do appreciate, you know, this is one thing. And then the other thing, trying to be creative in the studio, not so much listening to what's going on left and right, trying to fit with the trends and all these things. If you're just focusing on yourself, really, then I think other people are actually appreciating exactly that. And because you're doing something on your own, that's hopefully interesting then. And that's something that the others then will come back to. If you're really doing so kind of like doing the opposite thing, focusing on yourself and not like listening so much left and right, and follow copy or whatever, going by trends. So other people, I think they appreciate that. And in that case also, I do think this comes from, I mean, this is where these collaborations come from in my case, and remix requests also, and all these things.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, but this is, of course, a long process to achieve this. And I think when people are asking those kind of questions, some of them might forget that you're doing this music business thing for like, what, 15 years, 20 years now? Yeah. And to be able to be this guy, to achieve this level of being this guy who is doing the best kick drums in the EDM business or whatever, yeah, it's a lot of work, and it's not a question of months, but of years.
Yeah, it really, yeah, it definitely is. And there's, you know, in that question there lies one of the key aspects for me that I always say to whether it's newcomers or it doesn't matter. It's the thing that you got to do it out of passion, right? So as soon as it feels like work, you're doing something wrong. You should pick something else. That's my really just honest answer to that. It's, you know, it should always be pure fun. I mean, not always, okay, maybe this is exaggerated. There's always days where even whether you're professional or not professional, where you're sitting in the studio and you're struggling and maybe it's not so much fun. But on average, overall, the motivation and the drive should be fun. And really, that's it. It should just be, for me, sitting in the studio, it still feels like a hobby, actually. You know, when I come here and I work on songs, it still feels like that. It's not really, I have days too when it feels like work, but I know those are the bad days. And those are the days when I'm not really creative in the studio then, and where nothing then comes out. Everyone has this, it's normal. You can't force it then. In that case, sometimes I just, you know, go outside and maybe get some fresh air, do something else, try to get some distraction. But on average, normally it's really fun. And those are the good days, and that's when you're creative.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that. And I mean, everyone who spends some hours in the studio knows these days where it's just frustrating searching for the right hi-hats for like 10 hours. And but keep going is kind of the secret here, and your secret, and the answer to that question. Some other questions in a similar direction were more focusing on the networking kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
Are you a good networker as well, or is like your secret particular that your music achieved such a great level that everyone is coming to you anyway because of the high quality?
Yeah, so I used to be a terrible networker, actually. Starting my career, I was terrible at it. I just didn't understand it. I didn't get it. And I also made the mistake a little bit that I felt like it wasn't necessary at all, or I didn't see the value in it, right? So it was multiple things coming together. But then I have to say, in the beginning, I mean, like I said, 4 or 5 years for me in the beginning where I was struggling, but then I had that one record. And when you have that one record, then people do come to you just naturally, organically. They want something from you. So, but once you have hit that point, then it would be good to have some skills in terms of networking too, just in order to know maybe, you know, once these people come to you, how to communicate with them and how to leverage that. So that's definitely important. And I did learn that over the years then and throughout my career to get better at that. And I just learned that it is very important, and you should not underestimate that factor. But there are also people that I think come at it from the wrong perspective, thinking that networking is almost everything, you know, like thinking that that is the secret to success. Like sometimes I hear that as an excuse, kind of like, I don't know the right people and this is why I don't have success. That's not true. You know, if the success is not there yet, then that's because of the music. It always starts with the music, and the networking is just like how to bring it maybe more forward, but the source is the music. So it shouldn't be an excuse, the whole networking thing, for maybe not being successful yet.
Yeah, yeah. Before we dive in deeper regarding music production and everything, there's one question popping up quite often when it comes to your career. Name change you did a couple of years back from Deniz Koyu, after everything you have achieved with this alias, to just Koyu, where you, I think, released more like poppy, future bass orientated music, and then back to Deniz Koyu. So the question, why the name change? Because if I remember this correctly, you also changed all your socials and everything around you to Koyu only, and then back to Deniz Koyu. And will there ever be Koyu stuff again?
Yeah, it might come. I'm not at the moment. I'm just again focusing on the Deniz Koyu stuff. But with the Koyu thing, I might just at later points pick it up again. The reason for it had multiple reasons, but some of them were linked to some deals and agreements that were part of Deniz Koyu at the time. And there's sometimes the business is a bit more complicated than it seems to let's say the average listener out there, right? And there was something related to that as well. Why, you know, it then also made sense to create a new artist name, to be more free with the things I could do. That was one thing. Plus, then the other thing, that I was motivated to try some very different things sound-wise. So these two things came together, and then at the time it just made sense to try it out. And I was just really missing the whole club sound though, and it just didn't, like, the way that I pictured it at that time didn't feel right. And then 2 years more had passed, and then the thing with the agreement stuff and the deals that was an issue at the time was solved as well. So then it just made sense to go back to what I loved most, and, you know, pick up again with the club stuff, and just more of the Deniz Koyu sound. But like you said, like you asked, it doesn't mean that at a later point maybe I won't pick it up again just to put out some really pop songs or something different under the Koyu alias. But my socials and stuff, they're gonna stay with Deniz Koyu.
Okay, great. So I even made some notes because as you are famous for being such a good producer and studio nerd, we obviously received a lot of questions regarding studio stuff and plugins, etc. I will keep it like pretty basic so that everyone who's joining us here today can follow, and I think it's not necessary diving in too deep. But one of the questions we received quite a lot were, what is your favorite VC plugin? That's it's hard to pick one, I know.
One, there's just tons of plugins, but I would say, first of all, I really like the stock plugins that come with Ableton. And I think actually if you know, if I had to, I could also produce with just that and not anything external, and could also still be able to make something professional sounding and be fine. But I guess the first thing that I would pick then would be FabFilter, just the FabFilter bundle as the first thing that I would pick up as external plugins. And then some synthesizers, you know, like the Arturia bundle would be the next thing, first thing that I would pick. And then, I mean, the list then quickly starts rolling, so it's really hard.
Yeah, sure. But now that you mentioned Ableton, I think I remember you used to be on Cubase, right? And
Right.
so you changed to Ableton a couple of years back. Why was that?
I just really felt kind of stuck with Cubase in the way the workflow works there. I felt like it was slowing me down and also a bit limiting my creativity in some ways, because Cubase it's just a really old school type of DAW in the way it works. You know, it's really great at certain things, but for electronic music and fast workflow, putting out ideas quickly, it's not really, I think, the best approach. And then I was always looking at Ableton. I was trying it out and doing stuff, and I got jealous. So I was starting some small ideas for a bit, and then it took me 1 or 2 years to really get into it, and then until I finally did that switch. And then I was super happy though to do that, because it's much faster, and you can just experiment a lot more. Yeah, just like, for example, the easiest example I can give is in Cubase you have that limitation of how many plugins you can put in a row on one track. Plugins, it's just six inserts, and then you have those 2 more post fader plugins, so 8 in total, and that's it. While in Ableton you can create practically endless chains in one track, and you can do crazy things with parallel processing and creating your own racks and effect racks and route macro knobs to functions, you know, and you can just be so playful and experimental, and I love that. So yeah.
Okay, cool. Would you recommend Ableton as well for beginners?
Yeah, I
because
think so.
I'm still on Cubase since like I visited the studio for the first time, and looked at Ableton a couple of times, but never really liked it. But every time when someone who's really into Ableton is talking about the program, it's like, yeah, maybe I should try it sometime. And I also heard a lot of times that it should be the best software to start with.
I think it's perfectly fine for beginners. There's nothing complicated about it in a way that, you know, beginners wouldn't understand. I think actually Cubase is more difficult to, like, just the workflow, and also just the way, just in general, how to find things and stuff. I think it's a bit more complicated. So from that aspect, there's nothing against Ableton really. There's also so many good sources on YouTube, and to learn it. It's I think pretty easy to find a way into it. Yeah, and yeah, other than that, I don't really see an advantage, I think, for Cubase for electronic music. But that being said, in the end, what matters the most is what you're comfortable in, right? And what you know, that is more important than some cool features and things in the other DAWs. So if you're really fluid and fast in Cubase, that's totally fine as well. If you're happy with it, stick with it. A change definitely takes time. So I know also when I did that change, I was for a year, I think, you know, it was also, there was that transition phase. So I have to deal with that as well. Yeah, so take that into.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I think for most of the starters, it doesn't really matter, because if you're used to a DAW over the years, it's always harder to make the change than to begin with when you are starting music production. And also that you mentioned that those plugins coming with Ableton are pretty good already, is also an argument for Ableton to start with, I think.
Yeah, totally. This was one of the main reasons why I switched, because I loved those plugins so much. I wanted to have them, and then this was really one of the main reasons to switch. I used to sometimes export from Cubase and then load them into Ableton just to put some Ableton plugins on it, and then bounce it out again and put it back into Cubase. That's
okay.
For OTT, maybe you know OTT, that's that one plugin that everyone uses, and some of the other distortion plugins and stuff. So yeah, and then at some point I got annoyed of doing that, and then I said, okay, gotta switch.
Yeah. We also got the question from a guy who's starting with music production now. What would be your recommendation for like the 3 must-have plugins to start with? The question is kind of answered already when you're saying Ableton is coming with some good plugins, but maybe you nevertheless have like 1 or 2 plugins which you think is really a must-have.
For beginners, also, I mean, I mentioned FabFilter and Arturia, right? Those bundles. And then for beginners, what I would also really look into, because I think it's a good deal, are those subscriptions, you know, where I know subscriptions are a bit annoying on the one hand, but on the other hand, I think especially for beginners that maybe don't have the budget and they want to have access to really high quality plugins, I think they are a good deal. For example, Plugin Alliance also offers that. And I'm not sure how much exactly it is per month, but it is really, really good for getting access to all these plugins. Or Slate Digital is also a great example. I think you pay $150 per year, but then you have access to all of the plugins. And when you're a beginner and you know, I think it's a good way into it. And then maybe after a year or so, you start to make some money, you know, through some maybe small remix jobs or something, whatever it is. And then you can start to afford buying plugins more. So that would be something definitely I would recommend. Okay,
cool. So I hope what's your question? If it's answered satisfying, please let us know here in the chat. Talking music production and especially tips for beginners, you recently released a producer pack with 78910.com, is right?
That's
a portal which came up quite often in my social media feeds recently. Sunny James, Ryan Marciano, and some other high-profile artists did sample or producers packs with them as well. Maybe you want to explain what this whole thing is about.
Yeah, so 78910, they are a fairly new platform, and it's mostly pretty big profile DJs that have done tutorials with them so far. How it works is they offer these producer packs per artist, and then you buy one pack, and what you get is usually a sample pack of the artist plus a pretty long tutorial where usually the artist shows how to use those samples and maybe create a song from scratch, just a song idea, or maybe whatever it is, just work with these samples. That's the basic concept of it. And yeah, I think, I'm not sure when they started, but they are pretty new and getting a lot of hype. They're getting bigger and bigger, and I really like their concept. So I did one producer pack last year. And then we just got a second one that we did a week or 2 weeks ago. This one is going to be focusing on mixing and mastering specifically. It's going to be much longer even than the first one. Not sure yet how many hours, but it's going to go really deep. It's yeah, I'm excited for that. We don't know yet exactly when it's going to be released, but probably end of the year. It should be ready. So they're right now just editing everything, and yeah, but this is generally the concept of them, and I think it's really cool because I don't know any other platform where you can get those types of tutorials from DJs and DJ producers, right? You have those other platforms where you get like the classic mixing engineers, for example, right? Showing how to mix a pop song and this kind of stuff. There are 2-3 big platforms for that. But this thing with DJs showing how to make club bangers like this, I don't know any other platform really that's doing it like that. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And I think these packages are quite extensive. So it's just, back in the days, it was just sample packs. And the idea of having famous producers or DJs presenting sample packs is not quite new. But these producer packs are quite extensive. So you have that tutorial of yours, you have audio samples and even presets, I think. So it's like a big bunch of stuff to work with, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so in my case, my tutorial, the first one, I mean, it was, yeah, this whole sample pack, and then some serum patches as well, presets for serum, also massive, a few. And then the tutorial was almost 4 hours. That was the main tutorial showing how to make a song from scratch. And then I also did one song deconstruction of, it was Lost Soul. That's the song I put out on Protocol. And that was another 45 minutes roughly. So it's really a lot of video content as well. And yeah, people do appreciate that. And I think, you know, I also did a sample pack on Splice before. You know, Splice, that's a platform that only does sample packs, which is amazing as well. For samples, it is the #1 source, and that's also great. But that just comes with the samples, so that is really else and different than if you also get a whole video tutorial and showing how to work with these samples. So yeah, that goes much further.
Yeah, pretty cool. Another question we got was actually about mastering. Well, my recommendation would be to buy the new producer pack, which is coming out soon. But jokes aside, so you basically answered this already. You're doing all the mastering, mixing yourself.
Yes, that's right. Mixing, master. I do everything myself, starting the song ideas. I mean, when it's vocal songs, then I work with top line writers, of course. That's then for the top line. But the production and everything starts here, and I mix everything and master it and deliver it to the label. Yeah, because what I've learned over all these years. Right.
Yeah, cool. So let me just scroll a bit through the chat below. If there are any questions still unanswered.
So something regarding publishing. Yeah, would you recommend for beginners? For beginners, definitely no. That would be, I would say, I mean, at least if it's for a DJ career type, right? If this is the question, then my recommendation would be #1 is the #1 thing you need first is DJ agency. Then quite a lot later would come management, and then after that, publishing. I think in that order. Publishing is definitely also important, of course, but at the right time, because that's just my point of view on it. Because if you're really a very beginner, then there's not much what a publishing company might be able to do with you know, songs that you put out that maybe don't get a lot of attention yet, and also they're not gonna probably be able to put you together with great songwriters that, you know, can write good top lines or whatever in the very beginning if you don't have a profile yet. So I think in the beginning it's always good to first focus on yourself and just do your own thing, and you know, just try to reach a good profile level on your own first before you try to get help from outside. This is how I would recommend it.
Yeah. So I don't know, Patrice, where you're from. In case you are from Germany, we just had a live Q&A with Roba Music Publishing, one of the leading publishing companies in Germany and Europe last week here on the channel. It's still online on our IGTV. So as I said, it's German, but probably you will get some tips and answers there as well. I'm just scrolling through the chat, just in case we have missed any other questions. Hi, I would like to ask, what do you suggest to someone that has literally zero audience to start promoting music? Is it a race to label or there another path?
Oh, what is it? The end of the question? Is it a race to labels? Or?
Yeah. Maybe a typing mistake.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm not quite sure. But basically, probably the question is also if you should release with a label at all, or start with self-distribution, which is quite easy these days.
Yeah. And how to get attention in the beginning.
Yeah.
The thing is, I don't think there's a recipe. There's, like a recipe to follow, like one answer, and this is the way to go, and this is the road to success. There's just too many examples of careers that worked out in just then a totally different way again. So there's great examples of guys that became super popular already by just putting out songs on SoundCloud, right? Like Avicii did that in the beginning, or and later example is Billie Eilish, right? And you have those examples of people that got super popular by just doing that, making music and putting it up on SoundCloud. And if it's really good, then you will get people's attention, because sooner or later, maybe in the beginning it will be slow, but sooner or later it would start that domino effect, right? If only 10 people get to listen to that song and only 3 of them really love it, they will share it, and then how it works.
That's why, that's what I always say. Yeah,
it is
absolutely.
That in the end, the media work. This is the key thing. And so regarding labels, I mean, labels, of course, it's also very important to get on good labels, to try that, but it is difficult in the beginning to get their attention as well. And one thing that I do tend to say to people is try to make sure in the beginning that the quality of tracks that you're sending out as demos to label is really good. Like, be critical with yourself, because I think it happens too often that people send out very mediocre demos to labels, just hoping to get a response. But then maybe you just miss out on that, that one chance that you get. Maybe it might be that you get one chance of your favorite label, and then the second time they're not going to have a listen anymore. So that's one thing that I also try to recommend. Like, be really critical, and try to comparing is also sometimes not the best thing, but just have some reference songs that you think are really good, whether it's the mixing, whether it's the songwriting, the melodies, and just just listen to those in the studio sometimes, and then ask yourself, how far away are you really? Maybe ask some friends, people that you can trust in their judgment. And if you can be honest to yourself, I think it's not the time yet, wait a bit with sending it out to those labels. And that's my...
That's what we as a label actually would say as well. And patience is key, working on your quality, because the first impression is so important. And I mean, there were in the past rough ideas, which also we have signed, but the idea must be damn good. To put also as a label or as management, to put that much effort and work in to bring it to the level you can really put it on the market. So first impression is very important. And I actually think we covered pretty almost all the questions here in the chat. There's one thing left to say, because I saw you on Instagram, you just got married, right?
That's right, yes.
So belated congratulations from our side as well. All the best for you. Thanks. And that said, Dennis, thank you so much for your time.
Of course,
it's been a pleasure having you. Guys out there, Dennis just released a new track, collaboration with No Sign on Martin Garrix's label.
That's right.
It's called, I've made a note, it's Flavors, right?
Correct, Flavors.
It's Flavors. Go to Spotify, Apple Music, wherever, and stream it. And Dennis, as I said, thank you very, very much for being here with us tonight. Thank you, Basti. Thanks for having me. It was a great chat. Thank you, mate. Take care. Goodbye. Goodbye.